These are images from that jubilant day on July 9, 2011, when South Sudan became a new nation. But the celebrations were short-lived.
We never imagined our country would turn out this way.
During the time of independence, there was so much hope and enthusiasm about the prospects of South Sudan moving forward. Years later, this country is engulfed in civil war. The fighting started in the capital, Juba, in December 2013 after the president accused his vice president of an attempted coup. Soldiers loyal to both men turned on each other. Since then, war has engulfed 7 of the country's 10 provinces. Too many people are getting killed.
So many, including small children.
How do you feel about
women?
This? Tell me, how do you feel?
No, it's really very bad. I feel sorry as a Southern.
In 4 short years, South Sudan went from the world's newest country to its most fragile.
This country has been one of the neediest countries in the world. It is a cesspool of human suffering.
And I wondered if I might close with just a quick prayer.
Rich Stearns is president of World Vision US. His group has been working in South Sudan since 1989. Stearns says the war is leaving a trail of tears and unspeakable human suffering.
It is a terrible place to be a child, a terrible place to be a family in so many ways, because there are so many different threats to your livelihood and your well-being, whether it's food or lack of clean water, lack of sanitary facilities, lack of educational opportunities, lack of economic development, or conflict, as we've seen right now is happening in this country.
Violence committed by both sides is intensifying. The UN says hundreds of girls as young as 8 have been gang raped and murdered. Boys have been castrated and left to bleed to death. Last week, UN investigators accused South Sudanese government soldiers of raping scores of women and girls, then burning them alive.
Well, the spirit of the Independence Day was the spirit of peace. The spirit today is the spirit of conflict.
People aren't working, farmers aren't planting. 2 million people have fled their homes. Many have escaped to neighboring countries. Others live in the bush or swamps.
It's been very disheartening to see the potentially bright future of this brand new country be put on hold.
Meanwhile, tens of thousands have sought protection in UN-run camps like this one on the outskirts of the capital city. Since the conflict began back in December 2013, the United Nations is now running these POC. They're called Protection of Civilian Sites. This one has roughly about 22,000, but across the 8 sites, there are close to about 130,000 South Sudanese. Ariane Quentier of the UN says that number is just the tip of the iceberg.
Because we probably have something like 3 million people between refugees and displaced persons who have been affected by this war.
World Vision oversees food distribution at the camp. Ngure Muruti heads the operation and says his team ensures that no one slips through the cracks without food.
They get sorghum, they get beans, they get vegetable oil, and they get salt.
Mary Namon has lived in the camp for nearly 2 years.
I have no other option but to stay here until this war ends.
She's lucky to even have food to eat. Far from the camp, in towns and villages in the war zone, people are dying of starvation. And reaching those in desperate need can be logistically challenging. Here's a staggering fact for you. South Sudan is roughly the size of the state of Texas, and there are only 200 miles of paved tarmac. So the best way to get to these locations is via plane. On a recent afternoon...
Sir, one at a time. One at a time, yep, sure.
Thank you, sir. CBN News joined World Vision as they traveled to a remote village far from the capital city. Here, aid workers race frantically to save 250,000 children like Aout, who are suffering from severe malnutrition. One of the things they do right away is to get an assessment, a physical assessment, but also a weight assessment. Aout is 13 months old, and a typical child at 13 months should weigh roughly about 9 kilograms. Aout right now at 13 months weighs about 5.5. Nurse Damaris Wanjiku says a combination of therapeutic milk and nutrient-rich foods will keep him and other kids in this village alive.
The mothers go home with the children, then they return every 7 days. And then we take their weight just to monitor the progress, and then we give them more supplies for another week.
The program continues until each child is healthy.
My baby would be dead if it wasn't for this nutritional center. Thank God he's getting better every day.
A glimmer of hope in a young nation spiraling out of control. Despite several attempts at peace, both sides are unwilling to compromise and silence their guns. So for now, the fighting rages on, with tens of thousands dead and no end in sight. For aid groups, it's a battle against the odds to save lives, as experts warn of a catastrophic famine that could affect up to 5 million people. George Thomas, CBN News, South Sudan.